Long before dragons returned to the sky and the Iron Throne drowned in blood, Westeros was already broken. A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is set nearly a century before Game of Thrones, yet it feels hauntingly familiar because it captures the exact moment when the realm still believed in honor, unity, and kingship even as those ideas were starting to rot from the inside. This series is not a detached prequel. It is the emotional and historical spine of Game of Thrones, revealing how the world learned to betray itself. The story unfolds during the reign of the Targaryens, when their dynasty still ruled uncontested and dragons were only memories. The Seven Kingdoms appear peaceful on the surface, but the calm is deceptive. Power is centralized, noble houses are restless, and the consequences of civil war linger in every conversation. What Game of Thrones shows as chaos and collapse, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms shows as inevitability slowly taking shape. At the center of the story stands Sir Duncan the Tall, a hedge knight with no famous name, no great house behind him, and no interest in politics. Dunk represents the ideal of knighthood that Westeros claims to admire but rarely rewards. His connection to Game of Thrones is deeply personal, as he is the ancestor of Brienne of Tarth. The honor Brienne fights for centuries later is not an illusion it is inherited. Through Dunk, the series reminds viewers that true honor once existed in Westeros, even if the world was already pushing it aside. Beside him travels a boy known only as Egg, a sharp-tongued squire hiding a dangerous secret. Egg is Aegon Targaryen, a future king and the great-great-grandfather of Daenerys Targaryen. This connection reshapes how the Targaryens are understood in Game of Thrones. They are no longer distant legends or symbols of madness and fire. They are children shaped by hardship, rulers molded by experience, and humans whose choices echo across generations. Daenerys' struggle is no longer just her own, it is the final chapter of a family story that began with a boy walking the roads of Westeros. The political tension running beneath a Night of the Seven Kingdoms comes from the aftermath of the Blackfire Rebellions, a civil war that split House Targaryen against itself. Though barely mentioned in Game of Thrones, these rebellions are the reason the realm learned to fear internal conflict more than foreign enemies. They weakened the crown, normalized betrayal, and taught noble houses that bloodlines alone do not guarantee loyalty. The War of the Five Kings does not begin suddenly in Game of Thrones, it is the echo of lessons learned during this earlier era. What makes the connection between the two series so powerful is scale. Game of Thrones is loud, violent, and apocalyptic, driven by armies, dragons, and prophecy. A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is intimate and grounded, focused on villages, tourneys, and personal choices. Yet these small moments are what shape the future. The suffering of ordinary people, the casual cruelty of nobles, and the compromises made in the name of stability all feed into the world that later tears itself apart. Watching A Night of the Seven Kingdoms changes how Game of Thrones feels. Brienne's stubborn morality becomes a legacy rather than a flaw. Daenerys' dream of a better world becomes tragically ironic, because viewers have already seen how close Westeros once came to that possibility. Even the Iron Throne itself feels heavier, no longer just a symbol of power but a monument to generations of failed leadership. This is why A Night of the Seven Kingdoms matters. It is not about who wins the throne or who dies for it. It is about how Westeros learned to choose power over people, pride over mercy, and ambition over honor. By the time Game of Thrones begins, the outcome feels shocking. After watching A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, it feels unavoidable. In the end, this story does not ask who will rule the Seven Kingdoms. It asks a far more dangerous question: whether the realm ever deserved to survive at all. Subscribe to SuperHeroPro on YouTube as well. Thanks.